For as long as I can remember, I was the nice one, the one who stayed late at work to cover for colleagues, the one who loaned money to friends who never paid it back, the one who dropped everything whenever my family called. I thought being kind meant saying yes to everyone, no matter the cost to myself. I thought if I gave enough, helped enough, sacrificed enough, people would love me. They didn't love me. They used me. For 20 years, I was a doormat wrapped in a smile, and I didn't even know it. Until the day I finally said no, and everything changed. Hello. Welcome to Hurt Stories. Let me tell you about the woman I used to be. Her name was Grace. My name, but a different version of me. She was nice. That was her thing, her identity, her entire personality. She was nice. She was helpful. She was the one everyone could count on. She never said no. Not to friends, not to family, not to coworkers, not to strangers. If someone asked for help, she gave it. If someone needed money, she loaned it. If someone wanted her time, she surrendered it. She was a fountain of yes, endlessly flowing, never running dry. I thought this was a virtue. I thought being nice was the same as being good. I thought if I gave enough, helped enough, sacrificed enough, people would love me. They would see my kindness and reflect it back. They would be there for me when I needed them. I was wrong. I learned to be this way early. I was the oldest of 4 children, and my mother relied on me heavily. She was a single mother, working 2 jobs, exhausted all the time. From the time I was 8 years old, I was the one who made dinner, helped with homework, tucked my siblings into bed. I was the little mother, the responsible one, the one who never complained. My mother would thank me sometimes. She'd say I was her rock, her helper, her good girl. Those words were like gold to me. I craved them. I needed them. I learned that being helpful meant being loved. So I kept being helpful. Through school, through college, through my entire adult life. I was the friend who listened for hours to other people's problems. I was the colleague who stayed late to finish projects that weren't mine. I was the neighbor who fed cats and watered plants and collected mail for everyone on the block. I was the giver, the helper, the nice one, and slowly, imperceptibly, I was disappearing. The thing about being a giver is that you attract takers. Takers are people who see your kindness not as a gift but as a resource. They don't appreciate your help, they expect it. They don't feel gratitude, they feel entitlement. They don't wonder if you're okay, they just wonder what else you can do for them. My life was full of takers. I just didn't see it. There was my sister, Diane. She was 7 years younger than me, and she'd never really grown up. She called me constantly for advice, for money, for emotional support. Her relationships were always disasters. Her jobs were always ending. Her life was always in crisis. I was her emergency contact, her therapist, her bank. I loaned her thousands of dollars over the years, for rent, for car repairs, for just until next week. She never paid back a penny. She never even said thank you. When I gently suggested she might need to budget better, she'd get angry. She'd say I was judging her. She'd say I didn't understand. She'd say I was supposed to be there for her, no matter what. And I'd apologize. I'd apologize for having boundaries. I'd apologize for expecting anything in return. I'd apologize for being human. There was my friend from work, Patricia. We'd worked together for years, and she'd always been a little needy. But after her divorce, it got worse. She called me every night, sometimes for hours, rehashing the same grievances, crying the same tears. I listened. I comforted. I advised. I did everything but live her life for her. When I had my own crisis, when my husband, Michael, was diagnosed with a serious illness, I called her. I needed someone to listen to me for once. She listened for 5 minutes, then said she had to go. Her cat was sick. She'd call me later. She never called. There were my children, not intentionally cruel, just oblivious. They were young adults now, building their own lives, and they'd learned early that mom would always be there. They called when they needed something: money, advice, a place to stay. They rarely called just to talk, just to check in, just to say they loved me. I told myself it was fine. They were busy. They had their own lives. They didn't mean to neglect me. I was being too sensitive. And there was my husband, Michael, my sweet, kind, loving husband. He wasn't a taker, not intentionally, but he was sick, and his sickness consumed everything. For 3 years, I was his caregiver, his nurse, his advocate, his everything. I gave him every ounce of energy I had. I slept in a chair by his hospital bed. I fought with insurance companies. I held his hand through every procedure. I loved him. I don't regret a single moment of it. But when he died, I was empty, completely, utterly empty. I had nothing left for myself. I had given everything to everyone, and there was nothing left for Grace. After Michael died, I expected people to show up for me. After all, I'd shown up for them. For decades, I'd shown up for everyone. They didn't show up. My sister Diane called once. She said she was sorry for my loss. Then she asked if she could borrow money for a new couch. She'd seen a beautiful one, and she really needed it, and she knew I'd understand. My friend Patricia sent a text, 3 words: "Thinking of you." No call, no visit, no offer of help. Just 3 words typed and sent, obligation fulfilled. My children came to the funeral. They stayed for 2 days. Then they went back to their lives, their jobs, their cities far away. They called less than before. My grief made them uncomfortable. My need made them retreat. I sat alone in my house, surrounded by memories of Michael, and I realized something terrible. I had spent my entire life giving to others. And now, when I needed something back, there was no one there. I had no reserves, no savings of love or support or care. I had given it all away, and I had nothing left. I started to resent them, all of them. My sister, my friend, my children, everyone who had taken from me without giving back. The resentment grew like a cancer, eating away at whatever was left of me. I was angry. I was bitter. I was alone, and then, one night, I had a moment of clarity. I was lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, feeling sorry for myself, and I heard a voice in my head. It was my own voice, but stronger, clearer than I'd ever heard it. It said, "You did this to yourself." I sat up. I almost argued, but the voice continued. "You taught them how to treat you. You said yes to everything. You never set boundaries. You never asked for anything in return. You made yourself a doormat and they walked all over you. And now you're surprised." I was stunned. I wanted to be angry at the voice, but I couldn't, because it was true. I had spent my whole life believing that being kind meant being selfless. I thought that asking for anything was selfish. I thought that setting boundaries was mean. I thought that saying no was a failure of niceness. I was wrong. So wrong. Kindness without boundaries isn't kindness. It's self-destruction. It's teaching people that you don't matter. It's giving away pieces of yourself until there's nothing left. That night, lying alone in the dark, I made a decision. I was going to change. I was going to learn to say no. I was going to set boundaries. I was going to take back my power. It was the most terrifying decision of my life. The first no was to my sister. She called on a Sunday afternoon. I hadn't heard from her in weeks, not since Michael's funeral, not since she'd asked for money for a couch she didn't need. But here she was, her voice bright and cheerful, like nothing had happened. She needed money again. Her car had broken down. She needed $1,000 for repairs. She'd pay me back, of course. She always meant to. She just needed a little help. I took a breath. I remembered the voice in the dark. I remembered my decision. I said no. There was a pause, a long, stunned pause. Then she laughed, uncertain. She said she must have misheard me. I said no, she hadn't misheard. I said no, I wouldn't loan her the money. I said no, and I meant it. She got angry. She said I was being selfish. She said family helps family. She said I had the money, Michael's life insurance had come through, so why was I being so cruel? I told her the truth. I told her I'd been helping her for 20 years and she'd never paid back a penny. I told her I was done being her bank. I told her I loved her, but I loved myself too. And I hung up. She called back. I didn't answer. She texted. I didn't respond. She sent furious messages through our mother. I ignored them all. It was the hardest thing I'd ever done. Harder than watching Michael die. Because this was a choice. I was choosing myself, and it felt like betrayal of everything I'd been taught. But it also felt like freedom. The first no created ripples. Some good, some bad, all necessary. My sister didn't speak to me for 6 months. At first, I was devastated. I'd lost her, or so I thought. But as the weeks passed, I realized something. I hadn't lost her. I'd lost the version of our relationship where I was her servant, and that version needed to die. When she finally called again, she was different. Quieter, more tentative. She didn't ask for money. She asked how I was. She asked about my grief, my life, my needs. For the first time in our adult lives, she treated me like a person, not a resource. We're not close now, not like some sisters. But we have something real, something based on mutual respect, not obligation. And that's more than we ever had before. The next no was to Patricia. She called one night, late, crying about her latest relationship drama. I listened for a few minutes. Then I told her I couldn't talk. I said I was tired, that I had my own grief to process, that I needed to take care of myself. She was offended. She said I was abandoning her. She said I'd changed. She said I wasn't the friend she thought I was. I said she was right. I had changed. And maybe she needed to find a new friend because I wasn't available to be her therapist anymore. She didn't call again, and you know what? I didn't miss her. I realized that our entire friendship had been one-sided. I gave, she took. That was it. Without my giving, there was nothing left. I was sad for a while, sad for the friendship I'd thought we had. But I was also relieved. Relieved to be free of the weight, the obligation, the endless need. The hardest conversations were with my children. Emily, my daughter, called one day to ask for money. She and her husband were struggling. His hours had been cut. They needed help with rent. In the past, I would have said yes immediately. I would have sent the money and apologized for not sending more. But I was different now. I told her I loved her. I told her I wanted to help. But I also told her I needed to protect my own future. Michael's life insurance was all I had. There was no pension, no savings, just that. If I gave it away, I'd have nothing for myself. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said she understood. She said she was sorry for always asking. She said she'd figure something out. We talked for an hour after that. About her life, her struggles, her fears. Not as a transaction, as a conversation. As mother and daughter, finally connecting as adults. She didn't ask for money again, but she called more often. She asked about my life, my grief, my needs. She became the daughter I'd always hoped for, not because I gave her things, but because I stopped. Jack, my son, was harder. He'd always been distant, even as a child. After Michael died, he retreated further. He didn't call. He didn't visit. He sent the occasional text, brief and cold. I'd spent years making excuses for him. He's busy, he's grieving in his own way. He'll come around. But now, with my new clarity, I saw the truth. He wasn't busy. He was avoiding me. My grief was too much for him. My need was too heavy. I called him. I told him I missed him. I told him I needed him. I told him I understood if he was struggling, but I needed to know he was there. He was quiet. Then he said he didn't know how to be there. He said watching me grieve reminded him of Dad, and it was too hard. He said he needed space. I told him I would give him space, but I also told him that I needed him to communicate, to be honest, to not leave me guessing. I told him that love means showing up, even when it's hard. He said he'd try. He's trying. It's slow and it's not perfect, but he's trying. He calls sometimes. He visits occasionally. He's learning to be present, even when it's uncomfortable. And I'm learning to accept what he can give without resenting what he can't. The new Grace emerged slowly, like a butterfly from a cocoon. She was still kind, that was core to who I was, but she was also strong. She had boundaries. She knew her worth. I started small. I said no to a neighbor who wanted me to watch her dog for the third time in a month. I said no to a coworker who wanted me to cover her shift. I said no to a charity that called during dinner. Each no was terrifying. Each no got easier. I started saying yes to myself. Yes to a painting class I'd always wanted to take. Yes to a weekend trip with a new friend. Yes to an afternoon reading on the couch, guilt-free. I started asking for things. I asked my remaining friends to check in on me. I asked my children to call more often. I asked my sister to listen instead of taking. I asked the universe for what I needed, and slowly I started to receive. I joined a support group for widows. For the first time, I was surrounded by people who understood. We shared our grief, our struggles, our small victories. We gave and received in equal measure. It was balanced. It was healthy. It was everything I'd been missing. I started therapy. I worked through the patterns that had kept me small, the beliefs that had made me a target for takers. I learned that my kindness wasn't a weakness, it was a gift. But gifts need to be given wisely to people who will treasure them. The takers didn't like the new Grace, my sister, after her initial anger eventually adapted. Some takers can learn. Some can change. She did slowly, imperfectly. She's not perfect now, none of us are, but she's better. She's trying. Patricia disappeared. Good riddance. Some coworkers were confused by my new boundaries. They'd gotten used to me being the one who stayed late, who covered shifts, who said yes to everything. When I started saying no, they didn't know what to do. Some got angry. Some got over it. Some revealed themselves as the takers they'd always been. I learned something important during this time. When you start setting boundaries, the people who only liked you because you were useful will get angry. They'll call you selfish. They'll say you've changed. They'll try to make you feel guilty, let them. Their anger is proof that your boundaries are working. Their accusations are confirmation that you were never a person to them, you were a resource. And resources don't have feelings. Resources don't get to say no. But you're not a resource, you're a person, and people get to say no. So here I am, 50 years old, kind but not a pushover, generous but not a doormat, loving but not a servant. I think about the old Grace sometimes, the woman who said yes to everything, who gave until she was empty, who thought kindness meant self-destruction. I don't judge her. She was doing her best with what she knew. She was trying to earn love the only way she knew how, but I'm glad she's gone. I'm glad I evolved. The people who love me now love me for who I am, not what I can do for them. My sister calls just to talk, not to ask for money. My daughter shares her life with me, not her problems. My son is learning to show up, slowly, imperfectly, but really. I have friends who give as much as they take. I have a support group that holds me up when I'm weak. I have a life that is mine, completely and beautifully mine. If you're listening to this, and you recognize yourself in the old Grace, the giver, the pleaser, the one who never says no, hear me. Your kindness is beautiful. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. But kindness without boundaries is not kindness. It's self-destruction. You cannot pour from an empty cup. You cannot give what you don't have. You cannot love others well if you don't love yourself first. Start small. Say no to one thing this week, just one. Notice how it feels. The guilt, the fear, the anxiety, it's normal. It passes. And on the other side is freedom. They took advantage of my kindness. For years, they took and took and took. They thought I would never change. They thought I would always be the nice one, the giver, the doormat. They were wrong. I took back my power. Not with anger, not with revenge, but with boundaries, with self-respect, with the simple, radical act of saying no. And now I give because I want to, not because I have to. Now I help because I choose to, not because I'm obligated. Now I love from fullness, not emptiness. They took advantage of my kindness. I took back my power, and I've never been stronger. Thanks for listening. If you want to hear more story like this, please like the video and subscribe the channel. Hit the bell icon to get notified.